of special computers. But the legal issues raised by this process will be debated elsewhere. In the courts, where one company has already filed a suit to stop the coloring of 10 titles, and at the U.S. Copyright Office, which has been asked to intervene by the Directors Guild.
We're going to do everything that we can to stop the coloring of old films. It's wrong for the artists involved, and it's wrong for the public.
But the public seems to like the idea. At one large California video outlet, the new version of It's a Wonderful Life is outselling the old 4-1.
The color does make sense. People do want it.
Give my regards to old Broadway.
And it is the people who will decide if this revision of the past has a future. Sadie Kenyon, CNN, Hollywood.
I'm Lynn Russell. This is Headline News.
Around the world in 30 minutes, this is Headline News.
This just in from the Middle East. Lebanese President Amin Gemayel.
Let's check the latest headline sports.
This is Sandy Kenyon with the Hollywood Minute.
The nation's weather map today promises a mild weekend.
Around the world every 30 minutes, this is Headline News.
Get ready for tomorrow. Watch the Headline News Network tonight. Get the headline habit.
From Turner Broadcasting System, this is the Headline News Network.
Coming up on Cablevision News, Governor Cuomo puts more conditions on a debate with other gubernatorial candidates. An indictment is unsealed against the administrative state Supreme Court judge of Queens in connection with the awarding of that borough's cable TV franchise. A girlfriend of Anthony Crippen testifies he admitted killing a Southampton couple. The railroad changes some schedules, and Soul lives on the island in the hands of Little Buster and the Soul Brothers. Also tonight on the second half, your taxes. How does the just-signed tax bill affect you? We'll talk with a couple of experts. All that and more on Cablevision News next.
If you need to borrow money for a new car, you could always count on your family. There's your rich Aunt Gladys. And don't forget about your brother-in-law, Rocco. Or you can get an auto loan from our family.
Now in conjunction with 37 Long Island car dealers, purchase a new car at the guaranteed lowest price. We'll finance it at only 9.9 annual percentage rate for up to 72 months with no money down for qualified borrowers. Call the Nassau County Employees Federal Credit Union for details.
Finding yourself in a court of law can be very costly, emotionally and financially. At the law firm of Russo & Russo, we know how trying these times can be. We are a family firm with a tradition of protecting our clients' rights with sound, reliable advice and representation. Whether it's a question of a divorce proceeding, a criminal arrest, an accident or negligence matter, or a real estate closing, Russo & Russo will handle it professionally and with care. Russo & Russo, justice you can afford.
Cablevision News is brought to you by Genesee Beer, the great outdoors in a glass.
Coming up next, Cablevision News reports the news of Long Island. Headline News will continue on Cablevision Channel 19. From Long Island, this is Cablevision News with Bill Zimmerman.
Good evening. There's a new hitch in the saga of the long-debated gubernatorial debates. Governor Mario Cuomo now wants the new Alliance Party candidate, Lenora Fulani, included in the face-off. Originally, the Right to Life candidate, Dennis Dillon, was left out of the public TV debate, but after Cuomo objected, Dillon was added to the panel. Today, the governor said, now that Dillon's included, everyone should be.
It's logical, it's fair. Are you going to say to the minorities, well, now we put in Dennis Dillon and provided 30 extra minutes to hear about right to life, but we don't want to hear about poverty, we don't want to hear about housing, we don't want to hear about women. You're out. We left only one person out, it's you.
A spokesperson for Republican challenger Andrew O'Rourke, who called the Alliance Party communist, claimed Cuomo's latest condition is an attempt to cloud the issues. The Albany Public Television station sponsoring the debate says it will add Fulani to the 90-minute forum scheduled for next week. Suffolk County and the state want to know why the Nuclear Regulatory Commission recently replaced 2 of its 3 judges on the Shoreham Licensing Board. The Shoreham opponents fear it has something to do with a secret plan to open Lilco's nuclear power plant. The county, state, and a local town have filed a motion asking the NRC to rescind the changes. Governor Cuomo today called the replacements outrageous. He said the NRC is not objective when it comes to Shoreham and will do anything to open the plant.
If they find a judge who's going to be fair and who's going to conclude that Shoreham shouldn't open, they'll pull the judge out and stick in another judge they think is going to decide with them.
The NRC says the replacements were made because of scheduling conflicts. 9 hours of surgery is over for a Brentwood boy who police say was hit by a car last night, dragged 3 blocks, and left for dead. 13-year-old Michael Hayes is in critical but stable condition tonight at Stony Brook University Hospital. Police say he was riding his bicycle on Wick Street when a light-colored 2-door sedan plowed into him. Michael first landed on the vehicle's hood, but police say he then slid under the undercarriage and was trapped. In an attempt to dislodge the boy, the driver is said to have kept traveling down the street making turns. Finally, police say Michael fell free. Police are still looking for the driver and are asking anyone with information to call them at 435-4444. Friends of the 4 Salvadoran men killed in a car accident earlier this week are trying to raise money to send the bodies home for burial. The only survivor of the crash, Alfredo Rivera, attended a press conference at Syosset Community Hospital this afternoon to ask for help. His brother and 3 boyhood friends from El Salvador were killed Wednesday when their car smashed into woods off Woodbury Road. The Nassau County Medical Examiner's Office said all of the men had been drinking. Friends of the victims say they need about $15,000 for funerals and transportation. The staff at the hospital raised about $300.
People have walked off the street into our emergency room and said, we heard about the accident, we want to help, and they've just left $20. 2 people last evening walked in and just, each left $20 and said, please give it to the El Salvadorians and tell them our hearts are with them.
A community organization accepting contributions for the accident victims is the Religious Society of Friends at 550 Post Avenue in Westbury. Checks should be made to the Salvadoran Funeral Fund. A girlfriend of Anthony Crippen's testified today that he admitted killing a Southampton couple, but later told her he had been drugged and beaten by police. Cablevision's Rosemary Gomez has more on another emotional day in court.
Cynthia Bellamy said she had a special relationship with Anthony Crippen and that she still loved him. Today, she testified that Crippen told her he killed Winifred Alice Dans and her fiancé, Thomas Femmel, during a phone conversation she had with him.
I know that she was not involved. She's a nice kid, never had no problem with her. And so the only good advice that I could give is that forget about that and continue her life on.
But later, following a lunch break, the 20-year-old Southampton college student told the jury that Crippen said he had been drugged and beaten by police.
When she indicated that Tony did not sound to be himself and that his voice was different. She even wasn't even sure it was him, which indicates possibly that he had been roughed up by the police.
When Assistant DA Stephen Walutis asked Bellamy why she didn't mention the conversation in a prior statement to the grand jury, Crippen objected to that line of questioning, threatening the prosecutor with physical violence.
I was talking and she was talking at the same time, and things got a little loud at the time.
Everybody's sticking together, we talk about when we're at home. We just got to stay together strong. And our reaction is that we feel things are going in our favor.
2 Southampton detectives also took the stand today. They said Crippen told them, "Why don't you make it easy? Make believe I'm running. Shoot me and get it over with." The prosecution will be calling 2 more witnesses to the stand on Monday, and then it will rest its case. According to the assistant DA, jury deliberations could begin as early as Wednesday of next week. Rosemary Gomez, Cablevision News, Riverhead.
Nature's full of remarkable things. One of them is the premium taste of Genesee beer. Another's the size of the humpback whale. He can weigh 40 tons. Oh, that's big. And so is the value you get when you buy Genesee beer. One taste will tell you Genesee beer is the great outdoors in a glass.
And now a word about the taste of Genesee Cream Ale.
Unique, mellow, natural, first rate.
Jenny Cream. The word is getting around.
The village of Roslyn is known for the clock tower and 19th century homes, like the one where Roslyn Savings Bank began serving Long Islanders more than 100 years ago. Today, Roslyn Savings Bank is one of New York State's strongest savings banks, with offices in Roslyn, West Hempstead, Farmingdale, Belmore, and Woodbury. Put the strength of Roslyn Savings Bank behind you. Ask about our low-rate adjustable mortgages Roslyn style with low first-year rate, low APR, and low lifetime cap.
Your Renault Jeep dealer still has the last word in factory financing. 0%. It means you can still finance a 1986 Renault or Jeep vehicle without ever paying a penny in interest. Or get up to $800 cash back. Cash that may be used as a down payment. Hurry to your Renault Jeep dealer and get the last word. 0%.
See the Tri-State Renault Jeep performers, the right guys.
There's nothing like the smile of a child. It's warm, open, sincere, and could last one's whole life. But as we grow, we recognize the potential of our smile and the need for good oral hygiene.
Hi, I'm Dr. Frederick Seltzer, and I want your smile to always look its best. That's why I'm introducing a new procedure called the Cerastore Crown. It's a special method that uses a unique porcelain core which eliminates the need for metal. The Cerastore Crown is lifelike and can improve your smile. And remember, we give extra special care for cowards.
A rate hike has been requested by the Village of Freeport Municipal Electric System. The utility has asked the Public Service Commission for a 21% residential increase and an 8.5% industrial and commercial increase. The power company's general manager says it's the first rate hike requested in 12 years and that the money is needed to keep up with operating costs. The PSC says if the request is granted, the average homeowner would pay an extra $8 for every 500 kilowatt hours used during the winter months. The stock market backs off from earlier advances, and a Long Island telephone test equipment manufacturer communicates with its shareholders. Details in tonight's report from financial editor Alan Goldsand.
The market tried to build on yesterday's gains, but no rally was forthcoming. On a day filled with news of buyouts and takeovers, confirmed and unconfirmed, stocks drifted in a narrow range during most of the session. And the blue chips gave back their early morning gains in the last hour of trading. The Dow closed down 2.5 points. It was 8-7 in favor of declining issues at the NYSE. The precious metals continued their downward movement. Gold at the New York Commodities Exchange off $7.50 and silver down a couple of pennies. The Long Island dozen stocks mirrored the broad market again today. Grumman was up 1/8, Tam Brands was down 1/4, Paul Corporation up 3/8, and Cablevision Systems down 1/8. In our second group, SLT up 5/8, the Allen Group and Getty Peak down 1/8, and Computer Associates off 3/8. It's mostly eighths in our final group as well. Bolar up 1/8, Act Media didn't open today, so we'll call that one unchanged, and both Olston and Lilco were down 1/8. To recap, we have 4 of the Long Island dozen on the increase, 7 on the decline, and 1 unchanged. Big board volume, 137.5 million shares. On the business blotter tonight, making a buck in the telecommunications market these days isn't easy, as the people over at Syosset-based Metrotel Corporation can tell you. In fact, that's what they're saying in their just-mailed annual shareholders report. Metrotel, which makes test equipment and automatic dialing machines for telephone companies, made it through its fiscal year ended June 30th with only a slight decline in profitability, despite a major slump in the telephone industry marketplace. Metrotel's net earnings were $321,000 for the year, compared to $387,000 a year earlier. Earnings were down despite an increase in sales from $4.4 million to $5.5 million. The earnings weakness was due in major part to the cost of new product development and marketing programs and the acquisition of West Coast manufacturer. But Metrotel's management says in its report that it expects the coming year to bear the fruit of 1986's investments, particularly in the area of research and development. The results will be several new models of test equipment for use by telephone companies outside the plant. Nonetheless, the company warns that despite the potential for long-term growth, it enters 1987 still thwarted in achieving its current sales goals because of the continuing slowdown in the telecommunications marketplace. That's the Long Island Financial Report for Friday, October 24th. Have a great weekend. I'm Alan Goldsand, Cablevision News.
Mario Cuomo is spending almost 6 times as much money as his Republican challenger in the gubernatorial campaign. Campaign financial reports filed today show that Cuomo has so far spent $5.8 million, while Andrew O'Rourke has spent just over $1 million. And while the governor still has more than $4.5 million left in his campaign war chest, the O'Rourke camp is cash-strapped with about $142,000 on hand. A morning rush hour accident on the Seaford Oyster Bay Expressway ended up being a headache for the evening rush hour drivers as well. It all started about 8:30 this morning when a tractor-trailer overturned and unloaded a bridge support in the middle of the road. That caused the roadway to be closed for an hour as crews tried to move the support off the road. Then at about 3:30, cranes were brought in to try to get it back on a trailer. They worked until nearly 6 o'clock, but stopped when traffic got too backed up. Workers are planning to try to move the bridge support later tonight. Coming up on Cablevision News, rhythm and blues music is alive on Long Island. Our Friday feature looks at a group of musicians who've got real soul. Stay with us.
I'm a Kalinsky baby.
I'm a Kalinsky baby.
We're Kalinsky babies, and so is she.
For over 71 years, Kalinsky's of Hempstead has been serving the needs of Long Island parents. That's 3 generations of quality, service, and selection.
Everyone who works here is an expert. They even have a registered nurse to answer all your questions.
There's so much to choose from at surprisingly low prices.
Kalinsky's with free private parking and prompt delivery service.
You too could be a Kalinsky baby.
In 1967, I volunteered for military service because I believed our nation's leaders when they said that America's security depended on our defense of Vietnam. Well, they lied, and as a people, we paid a terrible price. Today, there are again leaders in Washington who seem all too willing to risk American lives in a Central American conflict. As a congressman, I've worked and will continue to work to see that we don't make the same mistakes today that were made in Vietnam.
Congressman Bob Mrazek, representation that works.
If you're buying a home and need a mortgage, for fast approvals and the lowest rates in years, call Solid State Funding now. Thinking of refinancing for extra cash? Well, let Solid State Funding show you the hidden assets in your home.
Solid State Funding offers you more programs with low-cost availabilities. For conventional mortgages, FHA and VA approvals, refinancing and equity loans, call Solid State Funding and get personalized and confidential service. Solid State Funding. We'll turn your equity into money today.
Now, Tradewell brings you the bold look of Kohler for 1986. Tradewell introduces the Kohler Polare toilet and bidet, first with matching cover, the Couture toilet with exclusive elliptical tank, European-styled figurante, and only 22 inches wide, the Eden pedestal sink. At Tradewell, see Kohler's low-cost hourglass bubble massage tub, new Kohler faucets, the Signet, the Cirrus Waterfall, the Epicure kitchen faucet, all yours at Tradewell, 650 West Merrick Road, Valley Stream, and 258 Comac Road, Comac.
Perjury indictments were unsealed today against the Queens Administrative State Supreme Court judge in connection with the awarding of that borough's cable TV franchise. Details from Cablevision's Roger Stern.
Judge Francis X. Smith emerged from arraignment court to say he never committed perjury in his 3 appearances before a Queens grand jury investigating the awarding of cable TV franchises. That same grand jury had handed up a bribe solicitation indictment against John Zaccaro, the husband of former Democratic vice presidential candidate Geraldine Ferraro. The grand jury has tied alleged illegalities in the franchise awarding to Donald Maness, the former Queensborough president, who committed suicide after becoming embroiled in other corruption allegations. The Maness-Zaccaro-Smith investigation focuses on the attempt by Cablevision of Woodbury to win the Queens franchise. The grand jury had questioned Smith about 2 meetings with Cablevision officials. The first of these meetings took place at the Piping Rock Country Club, where Smith allegedly offered to help Cablevision with the Queens franchise. Smith is charged with giving the grand jury contradictory testimony about the reason for that meeting. On August 21st, Smith allegedly told the grand jury that the brunch at the Piping Rock Club was not for the purpose of offering assistance or discussing Cablevision. But then in a second appearance before the grand jury on October 8th, Smith allegedly testified that the brunch invitation came about after Smith had offered to assist them in granting the franchise. Cablevision officials met again with Smith in 1981 in Manhattan, joined this time by John Zaccaro. When questioned by the grand jury, Smith allegedly gave unbelievable, inconsistent, evasive, equivocal, and patently false answers, leading to contempt of court charges.
I am totally shocked at this accusation. Of course, all of my life I have prided myself on my reputation for being honest and forthright. I think you know that I went out of my way to cooperate with this grand jury, and I answered every question that was put to me as honestly as I could.
As for Cablevision and its officials, they are not suspects in the Queen's investigation. A previous indictment described the company as a potential victim because it refused to pay a bribe and then failed to win a Queen's franchise. Roger Stern, Cablevision News, Woodbury.
In a separate development, New York City Mayor Ed Koch refused to sign the papers which would officially give Cablevision the franchises it had been awarded in the Bronx and most of Brooklyn. The awarding of the Bronx franchise is under investigation. Reportedly, prosecutors want to know if influential Bronx figures were given or solicited improper payments. Koch did not cite the Bronx investigation specifically, but he said that any questions of propriety should be cleared up before the Cablevision franchises are awarded, even if it means a delay.
And by that I mean we ought to be very careful as it relates to what the city does in awarding a contract where there are allegations of impropriety. Those allegations of impropriety, not all of them were public and known to the board on August 14th when it took its action. Before we go forward, if we go forward at all, the board ought to discuss those matters which became a matter of public knowledge subsequent to their initial action, and that's what I'm doing.
If I can impose on you one moment.
Cablevision released a statement today saying that it agrees that Koch should allay his concerns before signing the franchise papers. Governor Cuomo was on the island today to talk to school children about crack and other drugs. Cablevision's Colleen McVeigh reports the governor spoke to a captive audience of 6th, 7th, and 8th graders.
Cuomo calmed this cheering crowd down quickly with a serious, sometimes somber speech about drugs. He wasted no time telling the kids drugs are an evil, insidious poison that could ruin their lives and burn their dreams. He called them the enemy.
They're attacking us. They're coming after us. They're coming after our children. And they're getting them. 11-year-olds and 12-year-olds and 13-year-olds.
Cuomo also repeated two common phrases being drilled into youngsters. Say no to drugs and crack kills.
It makes you like an animal. And after you take it a few times, you need it so badly you'd do anything. You lie, you cheat, you'd steal money.
Capping off his message to the Mineola middle schoolers, Cuomo pulled at a few of their heartstrings by reading an essay written by a 9-year-old girl whose uncle died from drugs.
The doctor said he had overdosed on those pills and had gone into a coma. They did everything they could to bring him out of the coma, but nothing seemed to work.
Cuomo's visit ended the way it started, with a standing ovation. And even here, he could not get away from O'Rourke. No Republican challenger Andrew O'Rourke was not in the auditorium, but Liam and Brian O'Rourke were. They gave the governor a special remembrance of his trip. Colleen McVeigh, Cablevision News, Mineola.
Pollution in the western part of Long Island Sound is producing low oxygen levels that could be affecting fish colonies, according to a study conducted by the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency. Water from New York City up to the Port Jefferson area was sampled. It's part of a long-term project which eventually will develop recommendations for improving the Sound's water quality. That same problem will be addressed at the annual Long Island Sound Environmental Conference being held in Westchester tomorrow. In the headlines tonight, Governor Cuomo now wants the new Alliance Party candidate to be included in the gubernatorial debate to be held on public TV. In emotional testimony, Anthony Crippen's girlfriend said Crippen told her he killed a couple in their Southampton home, but later added that Crippen said he had been drugged and beaten by police and forced to confess the crime. And the Mets must knock the socks off the Red Sox tomorrow night if they are to stay alive in the World Series. Elsewhere in the world and the nation, these stories are making news tonight. saying it has conclusive evidence of Syrian involvement in a terrorist plot to blow up an Israeli airliner. Britain today severed diplomatic relations with Syria. Foreign Secretary Sir Geoffrey Howe made the announcement after a Jordanian was convicted and sentenced to 45 years in prison for attempting to destroy an El Al jet with 375 people aboard. A jury in London ruled today that Nedar Hindawi planted explosives in the luggage of his pregnant Irish girlfriend. The explosives were discovered before the woman boarded the plane in London. Howe said there was evidence Hindawi acted on orders from the Syrian embassy. He said the Syrians have 14 days to close their London embassy. Syria denied the charges and said it would close its airspace and ports to British traffic in response. The Nicaraguan lawyer for Eugene Hasenfuss, who is accused of supplying arms to the Contra rebels, says his client is not a terrorist. Speaking at Hasenfuss' trial, the lawyer said the tribunal judging his client is not impartial. Another victory today for Christian fundamentalists as a federal judge in Greenville, Tennessee, ruled that 7 children are not required to read school books with themes offensive to their religious beliefs. Judge Thomas Hall found that the Hawkins County School Board violated the students' First Amendment's rights to religious freedom by requiring them to read such books as The Wizard of Oz and The Diary of Anne Frank. President Reagan was in Oklahoma and Florida today, pushing for Republican candidates for the Senate. The president warned voters that a Democratic Senate would drive up taxes and federal spending. The Federal Transportation Board has approved a takeover of People Express by Texas Air. The sale makes Texas Air the largest airline company in the U.S. Finally, the New York Mets are faced with their first must-win game since their elimination from the National League East in September of '85. The Mets, down 3-2 in the World Series, will face the Red Sox tomorrow night at Shea. Wily southpaw Bob Ojeda will be on the hill for the Mets, while Boston will go with well-rested flamethrower Roger Clemens. A win for the Mets tomorrow will force a 7th and deciding game Sunday night. The Long Island Railroad will provide additional train service for fans attending the World Series games this weekend. Mets special trains will operate along the Port Washington line, providing a direct connection with Shea Stadium. Fans should call the Long Island Railroad Travel Information Offices at 794-LIRR in Nassau County and in Suffolk County 234-LIRR for specific information. Typical autumn weather today and no big changes expected for the weekend. The forecast for Woodbury and the rest of Long Island tonight clear and cold with low temperatures dropping to the mid-30s, winds from the northeast at 5 miles an hour. Then tomorrow, mostly sunny and cool with a high in the upper 50s. The outlook for Sunday, cloudy with a chance of some scattered showers and a high temperature in the middle 50s. Daylight savings time starts at 2 Sunday morning. That means at 2 a.m. Sunday you should turn your clocks back an hour, or if you're not going to be up at 2 a.m., turn them back before you go to sleep. Not only will Monday morning commuters have to deal with the confusing change in daylight savings time, many will have to contend with new Long Island Railroad schedules. New Ronkonkoma branch timetables go into effect Monday when 3 stations, Wyandanch, Deer Park, and Brentwood, open at new locations. The railroad also is suspending 10 off-peak trains on the same line between Hicksville and Farmingdale. Bus service will be substituted. It's all part of the main line electrification project. There's a sound that's gaining popularity in nightclubs these days across Long Island. It's not a new sound, but one that comes right from the soul. Little Buster and the Soul Brothers has weathered rock and roll, disco, new wave, and country and western. Now, after more than 2 decades, their music is still drawing thousands of devoted fans. Hear now more on Little Buster and the Soul Brothers in this week's TGIF feature.
If you were in my audience for the first time and you walked in, I believe that it's when we at our full force and everything, and you would feel the electricity in the air. You're either gonna clap your hands or pat your feet.
No, that's my Lone Star phone. Hey, baby, I brought you a present today. 1966. Not 76, 86, 66.
The
as a blues. It's something that you know can always come home to. That's the roots, to me, derived from the spiritual aspect, mainly from my black heritage.
One, two,
I'm in another world when I'm on my bandstand. And it's strictly the soul. That's the only way. That's the best way that I can put it to you. Soul revolves around blues, rock and roll, even the ballads that I do, and jazz. You know, it's all strictly from my heart. So that's why I say soul.
Everybody has certain feelings, and what we try and capture is their feelings and portray them, because we all have the same feelings, and we just bring them out.
By me being blind, they wonder how is he going around this stage the way he's doing and running around and doing all this stuff, and he can't see. You know? So,
They ever ask you about that?
Yeah, many
all the
people.
time.
Everybody thinks that I'm fool.
What do you tell them?
You know, I always tell them, hey, look here, it's y'all that think I'm blind. I ain't never told nobody that.
Self-contained. He plays, he back himself up well. He's, you know, he can entertain an audience all by himself. He really don't need anybody. And like me being a horn player, playing with him, sometimes he plays so much he don't leave nothing for nobody to play. It's a band, so lighten up over there sometimes.
Maybe that's strictly down deep in the soul.
Just have to holler it out.
That's straight from the heart. Yeah.
Long as the nose sweet sound like George, 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 George. Oh, man.
Coming up next on the second half, what does tax revision mean to us? We'll get some expert opinions. Stay with us. The second half is next.
Cablevision News is being brought to you by Genesee Beer, the great outdoors in a glass.
This is my favorite place to be, the great outdoors. And Genesee Beer is part of it. You know, the loon can only survive in an environment that is pure, clean, and natural. And those words are perfect to describe the premium taste of Genesee Beer. With Genesee Beer, you've got the great outdoors in a glass.
And now a word about the taste of Genesee Cream Ale.
Unique, distinctive, clean.
Jenny Cream. The word is getting around.
It's early morning on Capitol Hill, and Congressman Ray McGrath is already on the job fighting for the residents of Long Island's 5th District. Congressman Ray McGrath cuts through red tape to protect Social Security and Medicare for our elderly. On the powerful Ways and Means Committee, Ray McGrath fought for tax fairness and won, saving area homeowners millions of dollars. On the critical issues of our time, Ray McGrath speaks out for local residents. Congressman Ray McGrath, he delivers for Long Island.
The village of Roslyn is known for the clock tower and 19th century homes, like the one where Roslyn Savings Bank began serving Long Islanders more than 100 years ago. Today, Roslyn Savings Bank is one of New York State's strongest savings banks, with offices in Roslyn, West Hempstead, Farmingdale, Belmore, and Woodbury. Put the strength of Roslyn Savings Bank behind you. Ask about our low-rate adjustable mortgages Roslyn style with low first-year rate, low APR, and low lifetime cap.
Your Renault Jeep dealer still has the last word in factory financing, 0%. It means you can still finance a 1986 Renault or Jeep vehicle without ever paying a penny in interest, or get up to $800 cash back, cash that may be used as a down payment. Hurry to your Renault Jeep dealer and get the last word, 0%.
See the Tri-State Renault Jeep performers, the right guys.
Cablevision News continues with the second half. On Wednesday, President Reagan signed into law a sweeping revision of the nation's tax code. It started as tax simplification, but by the time it got to the White House, nearly 3 years later, it was a document of some 900 pages that could change the economic realities in this country in ways that no one has yet envisioned. With me tonight to help us begin sorting it out are Jeffrey Blum of Saxteen & Company and Barry Levitan of Laventhal and Horwath, as well as our financial editor, Alan Goldsand.
This may have been conceived as simplification, but I have here 900 pages of act itself and another 800 some odd pages to explain it. How can this be called simplification?
Basically, Alan, it can't be. The objective when tax reform was initially thought about was to make a fair and simple bill. Essentially, what the bill has done is make sweeping changes, the biggest changes to the Internal Revenue Code, I think, in the history of the tax since 1913. In fact, we're no longer dealing with a Tax Reform Act. We're dealing with a new Internal Revenue Code of 1986. The last complete revision to the code was made in 1954. In order to accomplish what was interpreted as fairness, which is spreading the tax burden more equitably while remaining as a revenue neutral act, which basically is not generating any additional income or cutting back tax revenues, the objective of simplification was just too much for Congress to do. What we have here is a much more complex code than what we've had in the past, both for individuals, corporations, even on the estate and gift tax side. It's going to require a lot more work. There are going to be a lot of lower income taxpayers who will no longer be subject to income tax, but for those people remaining in the tax base, they're going to be faced with considerably more work with respect to both preparing their tax returns and doing tax planning for this year and in the future.
So we don't have a simple act. What do we have here? We have something that's going to benefit us in other ways.
Well, we have something here where the intent was to make the tax more fair in that you apply a lower tax rate to a wider base of income, so that one individual making a certain amount of money, his next door neighbor making the same amount of money, one person invested in tax shelters, the other didn't. Under current law, we have a very substantial difference in their tax-paying position. The idea of this Tax Reform Act was to close those differences so that people making similar amounts of income will pay basically similar amounts of tax.
All right, so it's not a simple bill. It may be a fair bill depending on how
whether you come out
it.
ahead or whether you come out behind. That's
right,
the
come out
decision
ahead.
everybody will make, right?
But just exactly how simple isn't it? How are you gentlemen and others in your business learning what's in this bill and what it all really means? How long is it taking? What kinds of things are you doing?
Well, we've been working on this bill since it first came down from the House of Representatives. Actually, since it first came down as proposals from the Treasury,
which was last August.
Last August, we've been working on this for over a year now in various different forms. Basically, what's come out of the conference committee and been signed by the President is the Senate bill, which was passed, I believe, last August, which made a great many changes to what the House had originally proposed.
Which was very different from what the President originally proposed back in August of '85.
All right, but you've been studying it, you've been reading it all this time, and as the changes come through, you've been reading those. But who's interpreting them for you? Are you having seminars? How is the word getting around inside the industry?
Well, the industry's had, of course, many publications, news bulletins. We get daily tax reports from various sources. We've even had a nationwide seminar put on by the various state societies, which was done through teleconferencing, which I attended back on October 1st with respect to the new bill. Some 12,000 practitioners attended that at various sites throughout the nation. So we're trying to stay up with it. One of the problems is, and will continue to be, the fact that there will be errors in the bill that will be discovered. They will have to be corrected through remedial legislation.
What do you mean by errors?
There may be typographical errors. There may be technical errors, which will be caught after the fact, because this bill has basically been rushed through the Senate, through the conference committee, to the President for passage at this time.
A lot of Internal Revenue Code sections cross-reference one to each other, and it's apparent in here already that a change has been made to a certain particular section without changing the corresponding cross-reference, so you're going to have some sort of discrepancy.
So you found some errors already?
There's a number of them in there already. In fact, there was a 76-page, I believe it was 76-page technical corrections bill that's already been acted upon on this.
Have you found any on your own additionally to this?
There's a couple of obvious typos in there, and a couple of many areas that are just unclear, many ambiguous areas.
We have to take a break. We want to talk some more about that and other parts of this bill, as well as what we ought to do to take advantage of it, if anything. We'll do that in a few minutes. Stay with us.
United Ceramic Tile proudly announces the grand opening of our Merrick Design Center. Decorating with tile will never be the same. See over 100 beautiful room settings displaying the latest designs from around the world. Our East Northport and Merrick Design Centers celebrate with incredible savings. You'll get the most out of every decorating dollar. Get to United's new Merrick showroom. Decorating with tile will never be the same.
Grumman has been on Long Island for 56 years. A lot has happened over that period of time, with Grumman always in the thick of it. Grumman people have always worked on the leading edge of the day's technology. If that's where you believe you should be, advance to the Grumman team. The present can be your future at Grumman.
The winning edge.
The winning edge at Huntington, Chrysler, Plymouth, and Comac. The winning edge is what we're talking about in selection, service, and price. At Huntington, Chrysler, Plymouth, and Comac, we've got what we think is the best service team on the island, backed by Chrysler's 550 warranty. You deserve to win, and you do, where you come first even after the sale. The winning edge at Huntington, Chrysler, Plymouth, and Comac, you've got it going for you.
Tabs Motors, the king of rebuild engines, specializes in all domestic and foreign cars. Tabs Motors expert mechanics will replace or rebuild your car's engine using the latest machinery. Whether it's cutting drums and rotors or a complete engine job, Tabs Motors does it all. Tabs Motors, transmission repair, front-end repair, and much more. For fast, courteous service, Tabs Motors, the professionals that are unequaled in the repair industry. Keep tabs on your car.
Suddenly, the law has been signed, or should I say finally it's been signed, And we've got less than 3 months left in 1986 to do all the things that are necessary to prepare ourselves or position ourselves for the things we have to do in 1987. What do you recommend that we do to accomplish this?
Well, this is the ideal year. 1986 is the ideal year to accelerate your deductions and to defer your income. 1986 is going to be the last year where the tax law is the familiar law that we've had for the past several years. Because the rates are going down substantially, somewhat in 87 and even more so in 88, 1986 is a year where you'll get maximum benefit from a deduction. You pay $1 in real estate taxes, you may save up to 50 cents in tax in 1986. You'll only save 38.5 cents in 87 and only 28 cents in 88. 86 is a year to prepay as many expenses as you might have been paying January, February of 87, try and push them to 86. By the same token, it's also an ideal year to defer income. If you take income in 86, you pay 50 cents tax. You take it on $1. You take it in 87, you pay 38.5 cents. You can defer a bonus. You can defer rent income on those type of things.
In addition, there are certain deductions that are available to you this year in 1986 that will not be available in 1987 or beyond. In addition, there are certain deductions which will be phased out over a period of time. For example, 1986 will be the last year that state sales taxes will be deductible on your personal return. So if you're planning to buy that boat or that car, either this year or early next year, the time to buy that car is definitely before December 31st. You may generate on a $12,000 car as much as almost $1,000 in sales tax, which will be deductible this year, but won't be deductible in the future.
But if you're borrowing to buy that car, is it advisable to take out a large consumer loan at this point, since the interest isn't deductible as much as it was before?
That was the next point that I was going to make.
Sorry to interrupt.
In addition, with respect to interest expense, consumer interest will be basically phased out over a 5-year period. Therefore, if you have large consumer loans outstanding, you should begin to start paying them off, possibly even by taking out a home equity loan, although there are limitations on the amount of tax-deductible interest you can take, which is basically limited to a loan the size of the original purchase price of your house, plus any improvements that you've made.
And while we're on the subject of interest, if I may, it's interesting to also note that the IRS now considers interest paid on tax deficiencies to be consumer interest, subject to the same disallowance. So it's a good idea where you can, if you have some sort of a tax examination going on, try and get that resolved, try and pay the interest during 1986. Going into 87, you won't be able to deduct that interest.
If you are in a situation where you have a dispute with the Internal Revenue Service, it's key that you get together with your tax advisor prior to the end of the year and determine how you're going to handle that on a go-forward basis, because interest charges often on tax disputes end up being larger amounts than the actual tax involved. And for those amounts not to be deductible is a serious detriment. In addition, you'll want to prepay your state and local income taxes if you find that you're going to have a balance due. If you've got a dispute with the state, you should be sure and pay the interest to them also.
Well, how do you find out all the things that you've got to do in these short 3 months? Should people contact their accountants? Are there reference materials that are available right now? It's an awful short period of time.
Well, for an example, okay, our firm and many of the other large accounting firms put out booklets such as this. This is the Tax Reform Act of 1986. This is Winning Tax Strategies for 87. And this is a sample of the kind of literature that a lot of accounting firms are putting out now. More important than, go ahead.
I'm sorry, I want to mention one other thing that I thought of that I think is important between now and the end of the year, and that is the fact that capital gains tax, which is now taxed at 20%, will be taxed at the same amount as your income next year, so which could be up to 28%. Is that
technically,
right?
Bill, what they're doing is raising the rate to whatever your ordinary income rate will be in the future.
So it could be 38% next year.
No, however, in 1987 there is a special rule maximizing the tax on capital gains at 28% next year, even though the top rate is going to be this mixture of 38.5%.
That's a big jump. That's a jump of more than a third, isn't it?
Tremendous.
In your tax.
If you're planning to take capital gains, this is the year to do it.
But
on the other hand,
right, what Jeff said is, if you're planning to take capital gains, this is the year. It's not a reason to run out and sell all the stocks that you were planning on holding for the long term just to pay a 20% rate rather than 28.
Okay. I want to talk about what some of the things that may be caused by what the new tax code is doing in our next segment. We'll be back in just a moment. Stay with us.
What is it about Genesee beer that makes me think of the great outdoors? Well, it's pure, it's natural. And like the bighorn sheep, Genesee knows you have to be really competitive to succeed. So Genesee goes all out to give you a premium taste. Genesee beer, now that's the great outdoors in a glass.
And now a word about the taste of Genesee Cream Ale.
Unexpected, smooth, creamy, full body.
Jenny Cream. The word is getting around.
Venture beyond the ordinary to Omega, a land filled with contemporary furniture. Omega, different, unique, styles and prices you won't find anyplace else. Discover the Omega Furniture Showrooms, European designs made exclusively for Omega. Capture the elegance. Feel the comfort of the finest furniture at a price that only Omega can offer. Discover Omega Furniture. Styled for today, tomorrow, forever. Magnificent.
United Ceramic Tile proudly announces the grand opening of our Merrick Design Center. Decorating with tile will never be the same. See over 100 beautiful room settings displaying the latest designs from around the world. Our East Northport and Merrick Design Centers celebrate with incredible savings. You'll get the most out of every decorating dollar. Get to United's new Merrick showroom. Decorating with tile will never be the same.
Here we go again.
Don't worry, relax. You'll see they have everything for all of us.
Where are we going?
Nemo's Army Navy store.
But...
No, but...
Doesn't everyone want Champion? Nemo's has the largest selection of all the newest styles in sweatwear, activewear, and tops. They have Champion and a lot more at Nemo's. And everyone knows that Nemo's always has what you want and at the right prices.
Nemo's with 2 huge locations in Oceanside and Hewlett.
You've got to love it.
So far, we've only been talking about the effect of the Tax Reform Act on personal income. What effect does this have on business and small businesses? We've got a number of people who are interested in finding that out.
Well, for one, there's been a major shift in the tax rates. Under current law, the maximum individual tax rate is 50%. The maximum corporate tax rate is 46%. When the Tax Reform Act is fully phased in, the maximum individual tax rate will be 28%, the maximum corporate will be 34%. You're going from a situation where the individual tax rate is higher now to a situation where the individual tax rate will be lower. So that lends itself to a lot of planning opportunities.
All right. If you have a regular corporation, you may want to elect what's known as S corporation status, which means the corporation is not taxed. Any income that the corporation generates is taxed at the shareholder level only. In addition, there are other technical problems under the bill that affect corporations. There's a new alternative minimum tax, which may result in a corporation paying a substantial tax even though it doesn't have earnings. There are new additional rules with respect to possibly having tax on corporate income twice, once at the corporate level, once at the individual level.
There's a special rule now that eliminates the corporate tax on certain liquidating type of sales and distributions. That will go away as of December 31st, 86. Again, if a corporation is planning to dispose of its assets and liquidate, there's a substantial tax benefit to having it accomplished prior to December 31st, 86, rather than waiting.
All right, gentlemen, let's talk a little bit about some of the things, some of the possible dislocations that all this could cause. What happens if everybody who's going to buy a car goes out and buys one before the 31st of December and nobody buys one the first 3 months of 1987? What happens if everybody who is about to sell off his stock sells it off on December 30th, and nobody sells any stock for the first 3 months of next year, and so forth, and all of these changes in corporate rules so that people can get around various tax changes that are about to take effect.
Well, one of the big risks of such a sweeping tax change like this is nobody can really anticipate what the economic effects are going to be. And this has been one of the biggest criticisms of this Tax Reform Act, that so many things are changing, that so many business practices that have been going on for years are going to have to change drastically. Nobody knows what the effect on inflation is going to be, what the effect on employment or unemployment is going to be, and so on.
In addition, we've had major tax revisions, of course not one as major as this one, roughly once every 2 years or once every 18 months over the past decade. Even though the industry really wants a stable tax code, Congress has shown through past histories that they're unable, every time there's a little economic dislocation, to try and tinker with the economy through tax legislation. We're definitely going to see a substantial technical corrections bill next year. One of my associates was in contact with the congressional delegation, some members of the congressional delegation out here on Long Island today, and it's possible, they indicated to us, that investment tax credit, which has been eliminated under the bill, may be brought back in a year or two. So essentially, we're standing on quicksand, as we've always been with respect to taxes.
On that topic, it's interesting to note, too, that even though the capital gain rate has been eliminated, basically, they've left intact in the Internal Revenue Code all the sections defining capital assets, capital gains, and what people believe by reading that is that they pretty much intend to put that back in after a couple of years. On top of that, there's already talk about having some tax bracket higher than 28% for upper income taxpayers. So as Jeff said, they can't avoid tinkering with this.
So it's going to be time next year and in the years to come to simplify this tax simplification even further?
I wouldn't take bets against it. In addition, with respect to tax rate changes, although the President has indicated that he will not sign any tax legislation raising the rates due to the deficit situation, we may be looking at other ways of raising revenue, increased excise taxes. Even there's talk potentially of a national sales tax, although it's just talk.
Well, on that pleasant note, I'm afraid we'll have to wrap it up. Our time's up, gentlemen. Barry Levitan, Jeffrey Blum, and of course Alan Goldsand, thanks very much. Pleasure. If you want more information on how the new tax law affects you, you can watch Cablevision's Tax Update show at 8 p.m. November 14th. Check your cable guide for the channel, and I'll be back with a late look at the headlines after this.
United Ceramic Tile proudly announces the grand opening of our Merrick Design Center. Decorating with tile will never be the same. See over 100 beautiful room settings displaying the latest designs from around the world. Our East Northport and Merrick Design Centers celebrate with incredible savings. You'll get the most out of every decorating dollar. Get to United's new Merrick showroom. Decorating with tile will never be the same.
Mercedes-Benz, perfection. At Lakeview Auto, we don't settle for anything less. Before your new Mercedes meets the road, every minute detail is checked with our latest computer equipment. And when it's time for service, Lakeview's specially trained service advisors will help to keep your Mercedes running smoothly. The legendary Mercedes-Benz in 10 distinguished models. See one at Lakeview Auto. We only sell the best because we are the best.
Whatever the season, memories begin at the Coral House. The Coral House restaurant in Baldwin, with its breathtaking lakeside setting, makes any occasion a special occasion. Whether it's an intimate dinner for two, a delightful Sunday brunch, or the most exciting day of your life. At the Coral House, you and your guests can dine on exquisite cuisine or experience the elaborate buffet in an atmosphere of picturesque beauty and splendor all year round. The Coral House, your special moments deserve special attention.
If you own a home, you know how much that means. But today, thousands of people have no home, no hope. Together, we can do something about that. Become a Carbo Concord customer and you'll receive outstanding service and savings. You'll also benefit from knowing that $50 will be contributed in your name to the Partnership for the Homeless. Let Carbo Concord bring comfort to your home and you'll help create some warmth, where right now, there's none at all. Call Carbo Concord Oil at 516-239-2500.
In the headlines tonight, Governor Mario Cuomo now wants the new Alliance Party candidate to be included in the gubernatorial debate to be held on public TV. And the Mets must knock the socks off the Red Sox tomorrow night if they are to stay alive in the World Series. That's Long Island News. Thanks for joining us. I'm Bill Zimmerman.
A warm welcome to Steve's Pier 1, one of the world's great restaurants.
Hi there, this is the captain at Steve's Pier 1. You come on in, we got something great to show you.
After a refreshing pause at the famous Brass Cannon Bar, your table is waiting for you to enjoy the very tastiest cuisine, no matter what your menu choice may be. Fresh whole lobster, jumbo shrimp scampi, seafood combo platter, seafood au gratin, thick prime steak, Long Island duckling, king crab legs, and a delicious array of home-baked desserts. The unique marine charm of Pier 1's King George Room or spectacular Queen Elizabeth Room offer the perfect setting for an intimate dinner for two, with wines specially selected for Steve's Pier 1. Enjoy a magnificent view of Long Island Sound with your delicious luncheon or dinner. Steve's Pier 1, an affordable experience in gracious dining. Call 516-628-2153 for information and travel directions from anywhere.
Headline News, I'm Brian Christie. A foiled plot to blow up an Israeli jetliner is causing international diplomatic fireworks. The United States is withdrawing its ambassador to Syria following Britain's decision today to sever all ties with the Arab nation for allegedly sponsoring terrorism. Former Secretary of State Henry Kissinger thinks the move may win a quick release of the American hostages in Lebanon. But it worries the families of American hostages in Lebanon because Syria has been helpful in the past.
We're obviously concerned that it may